Hello and welcome to another video here on DAX Wednesdays. In this video, we're going to have a look at a DAX function called substitute. This DAX function belongs to the text family of DAX functions. Let's switch to Power BI for the demo. So in this Power BI report called substitute, we have a table called cricket players. It's a small data set with 4 columns. First one, player ID. Second is player name. If you have a look, we have a mix of international players from the men's team as well as the women's team, the teams that they represent either internationally or domestically, and the skill set of what exactly they are, whether they are a batsman, they're a bowler, etc. Now, before I show you how to use the substitute DAX function, what does this substitute DAX function lets you do is, well, that answer lies in the word substitute itself. It lets you replace or substitute a text within your columns. As a data modeler, you should be doing these kind of modifications in Power Query itself. But for the sake of explaining you what exactly this DAX function is meant for, what it lets you do, we are going to do this demonstration inside the Power BI report. Now let's take into consideration the text that we have in the description column. You'll see several players have been assigned the skill set of being a batsman. Even the women players like Ellis Perry, Smriti Mandhana have been identified as batsmen. Nowadays, the more gender neutral word that we should use as batsman is a batter. Let's try replacing batsman with the text batter. I will first of all add a new column. Let's call it description modif1 is equal to, type in the DAX function substitute. Now, what does substitute take in as arguments? The first one is the text is asking you in which column that we should look for the text that we need to replace. So since we want to replace the text that belongs to the description column, I will type in the description column name like this, put in a comma. Now I'm going to replace the old text, which is batsman. So I'll type in double quote batsman, comma, and the third text will be the new text that I'm going to replace it by, which is batter. Now you see we have a fourth optional argument. I will explain it to you what it represents in a bit. But first, let's close the bracket and say OK. Now you'll see every instance in the description column which had the text batsman in it has been replaced by batter. Now this was one modification that we wanted to perform within this description column. But there are other modifications as well that we need to do. For instance, I want to replace this text of Chinaman bowler by just bowler, because Chinaman is a bit of a derogatory term which was commonly used in within cricket circles. But today, right way we can describe a cricketer with this skill set is a left arm wrist spinner or bowler itself. In order to do this, we cannot keep on adding arguments to the original, the existing substitute DAX function. We will need to include this patch within a different substitute DAX function. How I can do that is, first of all, let's copy this. I'll say new column, we'll say description modif2 is equal to, I say substitute one more time. I'll paste the DAX function that we had used to create this column modif1. Now what is happening over here is, for the second DAX function substitute, this becomes the new text or the new column that it's going to search for text to replace. If I have to put in comma, you'll see now it has moved to the second argument. This time around, I'm going to change Chinaman bowler with left arm wrist spinner like this. So now you see description modif underscore 2 has not only included the first substitution that we performed, where we substituted batsman with batter, and we changed Chinaman bowler to left arm wrist spinner. We can keep on doing these kind of DAX functions for, let's say, wherever we have a player who is both batter and bowler, we'll call him or her an all-rounder. Let's copy this patch, insert a new column. I'll say substitute modif underscore 3. I'll say substitute. I'll paste this, the DAX function that we used to create the second description modif underscore 2 column. I'll say comma. So now all this has become the text column that it's going to refer to, that it's going to search for the text that we want to substitute. I put in double quote batter. Baller like this, and a double quote, say comma again. So I'm going to put in the new text that I want to replace it by. So over here, I'm going to type in all rounder. Now you can see the first change is still there, where we have the batter, the place of batsman. The second change is already there, where we have left arm wrist spinner instead of chime in and bowler. And we have now replaced in the third instance everywhere where a player is batter and bowler by all rounder. Now you don't need to create these intermediate columns in order to arrive at our solution. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all of this. Now I'm going to delete the two columns modif underscore 3 and modif underscore 2 from our model. I'll click on the description modif underscore 1 and change the original DAX function by this. And if I have to say OK, you'll see all the three changes have been integrated in one step alone. Now, coming back to the fourth optional argument, I'm going to explain to you using the teams column that we have. So all the players that we have over here, we have enlisted all the teams that they represent. First of all, we have their national team that they represent. So Virat Kohli represents India, David Warner, who is a retired player now, but he represented Australia, and we are separating each team with a comma. Now, let's say, for instance, we want to replace the first comma by a different symbol. We don't want a comma over here, we want a different symbol, and we'll keep the second comma as it is. Can we do that? Yes, we can. We'll click on new column like this. We'll name the new columns as teams modif underscore 1. Type in substitute. Now it's asking for the text in which it should look for the text to replace. So we're going to type in the teams column name like this. We'll put in a comma. We want to replace the first comma, so I'm going to provide comma in double quotes, which will be the old text that we want to replace. For the new text, I'm going to replace it by this symbol. Now, since we only want to replace the first instance, I can type in 1. Now you'll see it has returned us values where it has only replaced the first comma by the symbol. Now what if we had to replace the second comma instead of the first one? I can only change this value from 1 to 2, and you'll see the first comma remains as it is, whereas the second comma is replaced by this symbol. So this is an interesting option you have with providing the instance number, where you can choose the instance that you want to replace with. So that's all for this video. I hope you understood the concept where we can use this DAX function substitute. Remember, it's always recommended that you do these kind of modifications in Power Query. But if your hands are tied and you need to replace values in your Power BI report itself and not in Power Query, you can, as a last resort, use this DAX function. Let me know in the comments below of what you thought about this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.